Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. Always good to have you listening along or watching along on one of our post-site podcasts. Welcome to the program. Today we get to talk about something that goes back years and years and years, and the ability to restore the vision, the ability to make things happen. Our guest is Steve Smethers, and Steve is working with the Abilene Railroad, and they've been putting together some beautiful trips, tours on a real train, on real tracks. Welcome, Steve.
Well, hi, Gary. It's good to have you. Good to be back on the show again.
Yeah,
And
it's been a
it's good to
while.
see
So
you.
we're going to talk about what's happened and what's going on. Here you just had really three big fun things happen over the last few months.
It's been an interesting 3 months. It really has. We just got done over the weekend dedicating a locomotive we've been working on for a long time. It's been sitting on the Abilene and Smoky Valley Railroad yard tracks for the last 30 years. We thought that the locomotive was unfixable. It was given to us by a guy who's a collector down in Wichita, and the locomotive has a really interesting history. It was originally purchased in 1940. The engine was originally purchased in 1940. It's a General Electric center cab locomotive. Now, you know, when you see a locomotive today, the cab is at either end of the engine. This was back when they made the cab in the center of the engine. They were primarily used for industrial uses. Well, in 1940, there used to be a railroad, an interurban railway that ran between Wichita and Hutchinson. So it was possible to go out and literally take the train down to Wichita or vice versa. And that project only lasted for a couple of years. Well, the United States Army was looking for engines about 1940 because they realized they needed more industrial horsepower, you know, to pull various things, everything from troops to ammunition to, you know, whatever. And so the Army bought the engine from the Wichita Interurban Railway, and and it worked for the Army for most of its life. It was finally acquired by the Superior Nebraska Imperial Cement Company, and it was used up there to haul box cars and gondola cars full of crushed rock and things like that. And finally, a collector down in Wichita bought it, but he didn't have a place to store it, and so he made a deal with Joe Minnick, who had just started the Abilene and Smoky Valley Railroad, to store this engine on the rail yard in Abilene. Joe said, sure. Well, we actually tried using the engine a little bit, and it was used sporadically until about 2002, when it was just assumed that it had breathed its last breath. It's sat on our rail yard then since 2002. And about 2 years ago, we were looking for a backup source of power. And so we realized we had this old engine. Our consultants are from the Durango and Silverton Railroad in Colorado. They came and looked at the engine. They said, oh my gosh, here's what's wrong, here's what's wrong, here's what's wrong. You can fix this thing for $500. All it needs is new wheels. So we bought new wheels. Now, Gary, buying new wheels for an engine, that's a pretty expensive proposition. But we did
I
it
can I can hear this conversation going on. Okay, you can fix it for $500, and it's
yeah.
this massively large train. I mean, you just think about these things. One, where do you store it? Where do you keep it? By the way, could rust happen? I mean, there's just a thousand things that could
Exactly,
go
a
wrong.
million
But it
things.
needed new wheels of all
Needed new
things.
wheels, and so we bought
So you
new.
got out your jack, and they
Yeah,
had
we
that turn
jacked it
crank,
up. That's
and
right.
you cranked up one side and
That's exactly right. So anyway, we've got a crew that has been working on that engine to finish it. And so this last weekend we held a dedication ceremony. It was D-Day weekend, and since the engine had had a military background, we decided to name the engine after Abilene's favorite son, Dwight Eisenhower. So we call the engine Ike. It is engine number 34 because Eisenhower was the 34th president of the United States.
Mhm.
The Eisenhower Library helped us get big old I like Ike decals to put on either side of the cab of the engine. and we painted it in Rock Island colors. We armed the engine with the kind of horn that used to be used by the Rock Island on their Rock Island rocket passenger trains. And to really add some pizzazz to the weekend, we brought down Mary Eisenhower, the president's granddaughter, who lives in Abilene, to break a bottle of champagne on the bow of the engine. So we dedicated our engine, and that was just a really, really remarkable event.
So you went through this process. I know it took some dollars to get from
Mm-hmm.
an engine setting on the track. One, it probably just took dollars to get it
Mm-hmm.
there,
Yes.
because that's one of those things. You just can't take an engine. You have to find a way to get it to where it's supposed to be. And they don't
Mm-hmm.
run down the road like a regular vehicle. So
They
you
do.
have to get it there. And then the time and cost of it. So the value of this, once you get it done, what's an old engine like this worth?
It's almost
Is
it's
priceless?
almost priceless, I would say, because first of all, if this engine were to go anywhere else, it would probably sit inanimate in a railway museum somewhere. Now,
Hmm.
this engine, by the way, was the sixth of the model that was built in 1940, and it's the only surviving engine of that particular model. So it has some value in that respect, and it probably would have been, oh, maybe sold to the Railway Museum in Wichita, for example, or maybe it would have gone to the big rail yard museum in St. Louis, that kind of thing. So to have an engine like that that runs, it truly makes it an invaluable piece of property.
And that's the great thing about what you guys are doing with the railroad there is you're not just putting them on the track for people to look at. Now this
Mm-hmm.
engine was there, the Ike was there, and people could
Mm-hmm.
look at it, but you actually put them to work and go
Put them to
on
work.
trips. Now these aren't long haul trips, but you can actually go on the train and ride between Abilene and Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fun trip, fun thing to do. So have you had any of those trips yet this year?
We have not used that engine yet. It will come into our lineup in a couple of weeks. We're still putting windows in it. I think that's about the last thing that has to
You're
be
still
done.
fixing the wheels would be my guess too.
Yeah, wheels are already on it. Yeah, wheels are on it. And we're going to probably then alternate its use with our standard diesel locomotive, the Alco switch engine that we've had really since 1993 and has powered most of our trains between Abilene and Enterprise over the last 33 years.
Well, Steve,
And
if you don't mind, this program talks about, forward ever thinking, forward
mhm,
ever movement. Wind me back a few years. Where was the impetus to get this program, to get this train yard started with? Actually, because, sometimes these things are great ideas, but
mhm.
financially they just don't work. Go back
two
to the start
guys,
and tell me
yeah,
about that.
two guys in Abilene. Um, it was obvious, that the line that ran from Harrington to Salina was going to be open.
By the way, Steve,
Yes.
the line you just said, two guys in Abilene,
Uh-huh.
could start a whole bunch of country western books and movies and
That's
maybe a
right.
few country songs along the
Two
line.
guys
Two
in
guys in
Abilene.
Abilene, right there. Okay, continue on.
And it was obvious that something was going to happen to this line that the Rock Island had used and going from Harrington to Salina. It's really funny when the Rock Island came through Kansas, they built a main line that ran from St. Joe down to Liberal, went through the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, and ended up in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. And as they came west, they realized, uh-oh, we forgot to include Salina as the obvious place to try to serve because even in 1888, Salina had emerged as a major agribusiness center. They wanted to have trains going into Salina to haul grain and to serve the flour mills over there. And so they built the Harrington to Salina subdivision. It's only 49 miles of track, but it was a big one because it allowed the Rock Island to have a presence in a part of central Kansas that really was the hotbed of agriculture. And so that's why that line was built. And it was operated by the Rock Island until about 1975. They started running less trains because they'd filed for bankruptcy by that time. After the war, all the railroads were in financial trouble. They were looking for a partner to merge with. They never found one. So the Rock Island was finally declared bankrupt and they started uh, dispersing Rock Island assets in 1980. And that year, the Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railroad, the Katy Railroad, came in and acquired all of the Rock Island Rail between Fort Worth and St. Joe, with a special emphasis on being able to put trains into Salina, because the Katy Railroad also understood it was lucrative to be able to serve the agribusiness industry in Salina. So that's what the Katy did. The Katy operated the line until '88, and in '88, the all of the Katy assets were merged into the Missouri Pacific, which was then merged into the Union Pacific, and so Union Pacific was getting ready to tear up the tracks. And Joe Minnick and Fred Schmidt in Abilene realized that, oh my gosh, this could be a very valuable asset. We're already drawing thousands of tourists into Abilene every year. An excursion railroad would be an incredible addition to the tourism industry. And so they went to Union Pacific up in Omaha and said, look, we'd like to acquire all the rail between Abilene down to Woodbine in Dickinson County. And so the Union Pacific finally reached a deal with them, and a couple of guys in Abilene owned a railroad. So the impetus for all of this was the original vision of Joe Minnick and Fred Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt passed away in 2009, but Joe Minnick is still very much alive and is doing so many things other than running trains, that really support the mission of this railroad. They decided that the railroad needed to have a historic mission, and that so much could be done if we had the mission of taking old railroad stock and making it run again. And so everything we have used to work for another railroad. And so whether it's this Ike engine, or whether it's our big diesel locomotive that used to work for the Hutchinson Northern Railroad that went out every day to pick up salt at the Cary salt mines, or if it's our steam locomotive, Santa Fe 3415, which was given to the city of Abilene as a park exhibit and reanimated 16, 17 years ago. And then all of the cars that we have are wooden passenger car. We have a wooden passenger coach that was made for the Katy Railroad back in 1902. We have a car made for the Chicago Northwestern Railroad that was part of their very famous passenger train, the Twin Cities 400. And then we have just added a new car to our stock, or our consist of railroad cars in the train, which was made for the Canadian National Railroad in 1947. Every one of these cars has been made operational again. And we just keep doing things. Last year, our railroad bought the old Kansas Bell Dinner train, which had been in Baldwin City, that ran between Baldwin City and Ottawa. And those cars are sitting on the side tracks in Abilene. And we have so many other things that we're working on right now. We have a car that used to belong to the Milwaukee Road, which was a great railroad that served the upper Midwest, Chicagoland, and out in Indiana, on over into the Dakotas and Nebraska. And that car is being renovated as we speak. There are so many vehicles that we have, and so many projects that we have, it's really tough to keep up with all of them. But anyway,
Well, Steve,
that's to answer your original question, that's how that happened.
it's just amazing to see a vision put into play, and people like yourself and the other volunteers that are there that turn around and make this actually happen. Because it's one thing to have a vision, but to have the other thing go into place to make it work. So, Steve, hold on just a second. We're going to take a break here and come back.
Time for a
I want to
commercial.
find out where a website where people can go to. I want to find out then maybe some of your key events that you have, because you run all summer. So someone listening may say, that is so interesting. You can go to Abilene. You can do that in the evening, or maybe go to the Eisenhower Museum and see how they've updated that. That's going to be fantastic. And it really gives you a lot to do in Abilene. Great day or two trip to make that happen. So I want a little bit of that to get people excited to come over and see you guys. We're going to take a break. Our guest today is Steve Smethers, who works with the Abilene Smoky Valley Railroad. They have a great venue that involves trains, and we'll hear more about that after this.
Since 1776, the United States of America continues to stand tall. It's been tested before, many times. Through grit and the ability to move forward, we create better tomorrows. We help our clients live their best lives to and through retirement. We make it easier. Thank you, Kansas. Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times. And we're talking about history coming to life in Abilene, Kansas, with the Abilene Smoky Valley Railroad and the trains that they have rehabilitated. They just don't sit on the track and look cool. You can actually get in these trains and ride. Steve, tell us about some of the big things you have coming up this summer.
Well, our season has begun for 2025. And of course, we were founded on the idea of running excursions between Abilene and Enterprise. And our excursion trains are narrated. I mean, we tell the story of how railroads built the state of Kansas, what the great railroads were, and how they contributed to the Kansas economy. And we talk about how railroads founded so many towns and cities all along the way. Of course, we give a lot of time to talking about the Kansas Pacific, which today still runs from Kansas City through Salina, Manhattan, Junction City, out through Hayes, and out through the northwestern part of the state, and what the legacy of that railroad is. That's a big, important part of our job. And people who ride the train have the opportunity to visit with our conductors and our engineers, ask them about how they do their jobs. We have a little ticket price available for people who want to either ride in the engine on the way to Enterprise, or if they want to ride in the caboose, they can do that as well. And so our excursion trains have really been our bread and butter over the years. Now, one thing to mention is the fact that this mission, I should say, was recognized by the Kansas legislature last year when they named the Abilene and Smoky Valley the state's official heritage railroad, which kind of gives us, I guess, the status of being a museum on wheels, which is literally what we are. Now, our dinner trains are just incredible. And our dinner trains have been remarkable because there is no dinner train experience anywhere else in the state of Kansas or in Nebraska or in Oklahoma. And we're drawing people in from a lot of metropolitan areas, people who will make like a 3-hour drive to Abilene just to take a 2-hour dinner train ride. But we are very, very special in that respect. We have some great caterers that are from the entire north central Kansas region. And we're able to provide a wide variety of foods, but we're also offering on-train entertainment. This year, we started doing murder mysteries in our Evelyn Creek passenger car. We have, for the weekend of Memorial Day, we did a USO show, which I can't think of a better place to do a USO show than being directly south of the Eisenhower property, right?
Mhm.
And they're going to be coming back on Veterans Day when we do another USO show this fall. And we also have had the opportunity to try some other entertainment types of ideas that have been great. We have a deal with the Great Plains Theater in Abilene, where after every Saturday matinee of the shows they're putting on, you can actually sign up for a deal where you go to the Saturday matinee, then come have dinner on the Abilene and Smoky Valley Railroad's Smoky Valley Limited Dinner Train. And so all of these types of things are really, really big.
So, Steve, tell us, how do you find out about this? Because it's not like you just take off. Say, for example, you're in Wichita, you're in Hayes and
Mhm.
St. Joe, or North Platte, Nebraska, where
Yeah,
they do a lot of trains up there as well. But they say,
yeah.
boy, this would be fun to do.
Mhm.
You just can't head out to Abilene to make this happen.
Mhm.
Where do you go to find out information and details so people can go online and figure out how to get this done?
We promote primarily on Facebook. Um, in various Facebook groups. There are Facebook groups that relate to various railroads, fans of the Rock Island, for example, fans of the MKT, those types of railroad groups. Plus, we go out in general Facebook channels. We have good relationship with news media from all across north central Kansas. Hayes Daily News is one of the spots where we send our releases to.
You probably need to
And
send them to Hayes Post, and we'd probably
we
get it
we
down there
do.
too. All right,
Well,
very good.
Salina
That's
Post
even better.
especially, Salina Post especially, they've been really, really good to us over there. And but we have a website. It's asvrr.org. Since we're a nonprofit organization, we use .org instead of .net. And ASV.
What's that stand for so people have a chance
Abilene Smoky Valley Railroad.
Okay.
.org. And you can go on there. You can buy your tickets. You can reserve your seats. And one big thing that's coming up, Gary, that I think is really going to be cool, our second year as a Sunflower Summer location. Last year we had over 1,200 passengers, I think, who were Sunflower Summer participants. I think that number might have even been higher. The people who came to Abilene from all corners of the state to spend the day in Abilene, as you mentioned earlier, the Eisenhower Museum, or maybe you go to the Greyhound Hall of Fame, maybe you go to the Sealy Mansion, maybe you go to the Heritage Center, maybe you go to Old Abilene Town for a gunfight, or but the train was almost always in everybody's travel plans when they came to Abilene for Sunflower Summer. And so Sunflower Summer will start on the 3rd of July, and I think it ends on August the 12th. It's down to 3 weeks this year. We're going to be running 2 trains 7 days a week to accommodate the kind of demand we had last year. We had trains that were total sellouts. And so we want to be able to serve as many Kansas families as possible and really participate in the education of a lot of young people in the state of Kansas through Sunflower Summer. Also coming up are Christmas trains. Now, every year, every fall, we start things off with Halloween, the Great Pumpkin Patch Express. And that's where Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and Lucy are on the train. And we go out to a pumpkin patch between Abilene and Enterprise. We stop and let people off at the pumpkin patch so they can look for their own great pumpkin, bring it back on board, take it home. Last year, that drew almost 2,000 people, to Abilene just to do that. Our Christmas trains, Gary, let me tell you how our Christmas trains have grown. We started the Cowtown Santa Express 4 years ago. At that time, we were so proud. We sold 900 tickets. The following year, we were even prouder. We sold 1,200 tickets. Last year, we sold 4,500 tickets. So we are putting our Christmas trains online this month. You'll be able to go online and reserve your tickets. And one other thing we're doing this year we're really excited about is what we call our Evergreen and Embers train. It's a charter train, and it's for Christmas office parties, whether it's your organization that is wanting a very special venue to have the Christmas party this year, or whether it's a family outing. The Evergreen and Embers Express, we have 3 great caterers lined up to do the train, which include the Brookville Hotel in Abilene. We have Amanda's Bakery and Bistro in Abilene. She turns out the best prime rib you've ever had in your life. Or Martinelli's in Salina for great Italian food. And so these are going to be our caterers for this new Christmas service that we're offering to employers throughout all of Kansas and surrounding states. So that's what's coming up, and we're really, really excited about that.
Well, Steve, thanks for sharing that. And I think if people have interest in the railroad, it is a venue that's unique to Kansas. You mentioned the whole region. It is unique, and the team that's been there, you and the rest of the group of volunteers that make this happen, it's just amazing what you're doing. So thanks for joining us today. Give us that website one more time so we know where to head, and that way people can go online and maybe look at some weekends or some times when they could go out, ride the train. The museum's great. The Eisenhower Museum's great there. What a wonderful weekend in Abilene. Tell us one more time your website.
You betcha. ASVRR.org. Abilene Smoky Valley Railroad is what that stands for. .org. ASVRR.org.
And I think, if people are there, they'll see you. Be sure if you get on a train, look for Steve Smethers because he'll be somewhere hiding on that train. I think somewhere, right?
The short guy in a conductor's uniform. Yeah, that's right.
You're the guy doing it. Steve, thanks for all you do for the railroad there. Thanks for all your leadership of getting this back together because anything that goes forward takes someone to help get the job done, and I know you've done that. So appreciate that.
You bet, Gary. Thanks for having us on again. We're proud to be here.
Steve Smethers, our guest today, representing the Abilene Smoky Valley Railroad. And you can find out more by checking out that website. That's the ASV, as in Victor, RR.org. right?
There we go. You got
We
it.
got it. Okay. Thank you for listening to our program, Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. It's brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.